Welcome to our third webinar in the online retailing series, Digital Security. We'll get started in just a few minutes. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our third and final webinar in the online retailing series, Digital Security. Thanks for joining us today. I am Lorna Johnson, one of the business advisors with Viatech's Digital Economy, Rapid Response, and Resiliency Program, DER3. I will start by acknowledging that the southern tip of Vancouver Island, where I currently reside, is the traditional territory of the Lekwungen people. We acknowledge with respect these people, also known as the Songhees and the Esquimalt First Nations communities, whose relationship with this land continues to this day. We are grateful to live, work, and play on this unceded territory, and we acknowledge the rich resources and cultural heritage of this incredibly beautiful land. Now to some housekeeping for this event. As this is a webinar, all attendees are muted and unseen. We are recording the session, which will be made available on the Viatech website within a week or so. Feel free to use the chat at the bottom of your screen to engage with the group throughout the event. Make sure that your notes go to all panelists and attendees and not just to the panelists. There's a drop down to pick from. And please put your questions for us in the Q&A box and not in the chat box. Now for the workshop. Today, my colleague Brandon Ellis is presenting the third and final webinar in our online retailing series, Digital Security. This workshop is scheduled for about 45 minutes, including the question and answer session, and will be recorded. This series of webinars is being offered through Viatech's Digital Economy, Rapid Response, and Resiliency Program, DER3. DER3 was created to help Greater Victoria businesses explore and implement business tools and models to help them adapt to the business challenges of a global pandemic. For more information on this program, please visit viatech.ca. Now, I'd like to introduce you to our colleagues. Adam Dorval will be facilitating our Q&A session. And now for our presenter, Brandon Ellis, the Digital Services Manager for the Viatech DER3 program.
Morning, everyone. Thanks, Lorna. A reminder that the information presented in this webinar is for your own professional use, and that any decisions made or actions taken as a result of this information are the responsibility of the participants. We're on the third and final webinar of the online retailing series. If you missed the e-commerce 101 and marketing strategies webinars, you can check out the recordings of them on the event postings on the Viatech website. They should be there in the next week or so. Today, we'll cover a high-level rundown of basic digital security. Some themes we'll touch on are: what is it to be secure? The BYOD atmosphere. BYOD stands for bring your own device. Those curious of what this is, it is the act of bringing your personal mobile device, phone, laptop, tablet to the workplace and or using this device with company data. We'll touch on information security, and we'll go over phishing. We'll go into greater detail with phishing and best practice techniques to keep yourself safe later in this presentation. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions, but again, please put your comments in the Q&A box, not in the chat box. So what is being digitally secure? Digital security is the practice of protecting your computer, mobile devices, tablets, and any other internet-connected device from intruders. It can also be thought of as the protection of personal data from being sold or used online. For example, have you thought about the data you share with Facebook or Google or any other social media outlet? I must stress that anything connected to the internet is a vulnerable piece of your business. In today's world, we live with mobile devices everywhere, and the most common challenge is that users do not recognize that they represent a threat. There are two problems here. These uneducated users do not apply the same security concerns to data protection that you, the business owner, will. Users who bring their own device will often give greater weight to their own rights on the device than their employers need to protect company data. Rightfully so. This is their device, but it's your data. It's your business data. Compromise needs to be reached. As a result of this conflict, 1/5 of organizations have suffered a mobile data breach driven by malware or malicious Wi-Fi. A bring your own device policy is highly recommended. On our never-ending quest to provide our employees with better working conditions and flexibility, we allow the bring your own device atmosphere. Here are some significant statistics to help put your thoughts around data security in the right frame of mind. Data leakage or loss. 72% of companies experience data leakage. 2, unauthorized access. 56% of users experience unauthorized access to company data and systems. Unsafe apps. 54% of users download unsafe apps or content. Lost or stolen devices. 50% of users experience a lost or stolen device. And 5, vulnerability exploits. 49% of users suffer from vulnerability exploits. These are incredibly staggering stats, most of which occur due to the ignorance of basic security precautions. You've been hacked. Some very prominent but harmless to an extent, examples of memorable defacements I've seen. The Vogue website was hacked to display fancy hat-wearing dinosaurs. The European Union Prime Minister was replaced with Mr. Bean on their website. Donald Trump's Twitter was hacked to tweet out continuously the lyrics to rapper Lil Wayne's songs. You may remember Britney Spears announced on Twitter that she joined the Illuminati. Or if you are a Twitter buff, you'll know that McDonald's enthusiasts defaced the Burger King Twitter account. Personally, I've seen a WordPress website taken over by attackers. This was largely due to the lack of applying the proper updates to the system. This resulted in the unwilling and unwanted selling of special pills and ultimately cost the business owner a heck of a lot more cash than it would have if they had just paid a little more attention to detail and kept their system up to date. Before we dig into the identification of threats, I want to inform you about PII. PII is the biggest concern your company will have in regards to storing data, period. What is PII? Personally identifying information. Personal information includes any factual or subjective information, recorded or not, about an individual. This includes information in any form, such as age, name, ID numbers, income, ethnicity, blood type, opinions, evaluations, and can also include email address and IP addresses. While one piece of data alone will not identify individuals, it typically is two pieces of these types of information that will allow someone to determine who the record belongs to. This is when it becomes PII. Well, how do we identify threats to our PII? Knowledge and understanding is number one. But we'll cover a few potential threats that you should be aware of. This will help you be one step ahead of others who push security to the side. Number one, compliance incidents. In consideration of PII, every country has their own privacy legislation. PIPEDA is one of Canada's, but the gold standard is GDPR, General Data Privacy Regulation, introduced in 2018 by the European Union, and is large and highly controversial. For the most part, it's aimed at large corporations, but it's worthwhile knowing and understanding it. I definitely consider it light reading. Number two, another major consideration is the exposure to phishing, vishing, and spear phishing attacks. We'll get more into this shortly. Three, denial of service, attacks on your web servers to slow or stop the response time of your website or application. Four, hacktivism, promote your political agenda. Five, impersonations. And six, data loss or theft. All of these threats will threaten the resilience and survival of a corporation or business. Nobody is immune to these attacks. Companies like HP, IBM, and JP Morgan have all had data leaks in regards to PII. One of the biggest assets as a company is the data you use to run your business and the trust of your customers. Data can be sensitive due to regulations, industry standards, or the geographic region. For instance, the data standards in Canada will differ greatly than those in the United States or European Union. Now on to the fun stuff. There are some do's and don'ts when it comes to passwords. In regards to security, refrain from using the same password for multiple logins. Where possible, use single sign-on, also known as SSO. Single sign-on is an authentication method that enables users to securely authenticate with multiple applications and websites by using just one set of credentials. And if you have trouble remembering passwords, use a service like 1Password, which provides a place for users to securely store various passwords, software licenses, and other sensitive information. Some pointers to a strong password: no empty space, at least 10 characters long, at least one number, at least one special character, and at least one upper and lower case letter. Do not use simple passwords. They can be cracked in a matter of minutes. QWERTY or I like cats is not a good idea. Another simple method to help protect yourself: do keep your software up to date. All of it. As I mentioned, a WordPress website was hacked because its software was out of date. Don't ignore updates for your operating system or software products. You may find you start selling special pills that are likely detrimental to your business. Now, let's circle back to the most successful and dangerous of all cyber attacks: phishing. 91% of all cyber attacks start with phishing email because it is simple and very effective. We're going to dig in here on this infographic and highlight some of the red flags. Let's look at who is sending an email and the issues that will arise from this field. You don't recognize who the email is from. That's a problem. The email is from outside your organization. Okay. The email is sent from inside your organization, but it is out of character. You don't know the sender personally, and they were not vouched for by a colleague. It's not a salesperson. You do not have a business relationship with the sender. This is an unusual email and contains an embedded hyperlink or an attachment. All of these should be considered red flags in the from field. Who the email is to. If you were CC'd on an email sent to a lot of individuals, but you have no idea who they are, that's a problem. If you were sent an email that went to an unusual mix of people, look for commonality. Do you all have the same first letter in your name? That might be a little weird. Hyperlinks. Hover over any link within the email. Does the link send you to a weird or unknown address? That's a red flag. Does the email only contain hyperlinks? No other content? It's a red flag. Does the hyperlink contain misspelling? For instance, an RN looks very similar to an M. Are you clicking on a link to the Bank of Arnerica instead of the Bank of America? The date. Did the email come in at an unusual local time? 3 a.m. is pretty odd to receive an email. The subject line. Is the subject line irrelevant to the content of the email? Is the email a response to something you've never sent? Attachments. The sender included attachments that you were not expecting or that does not make any sense in relation to the message. Be wary of the file type. Do you recognize it? Is it a safe file type? The only file type that is ever safe to click on in an email is the .txt file type. Content. Is the sender asking me to click on a link or open an attachment to avoid negative consequence? Is the email out of the ordinary and does it contain bad grammar and bad spelling? Is the sender asking me to open an attachment that is out of the ordinary? What is your gut feeling? Are you uncomfortable with this email? It's probably a red flag. And is the email asking me to look at compromising or embarrassing picture of myself? It's probably not true.
Thank you, Brandon, for taking us through everything we should be thinking about when it comes to online retailing and digital security. For more information, you can go to the Viatech website and the events and the DER3 program information. The DER3 program advice includes an intake assessment, an online presence assessment, and individual advice on the specifics of your digital business, specific tools, and provision of digital service providers, including advice on security. So please sign up for the program and we can help you with your individual situation. I believe we have some time for questions. Adam, would you like to, do you have any questions for Brandon?
Yeah, absolutely. And just a reminder to everyone, if you do have any questions, go ahead and throw them into the Q&A section of Zoom right now. And we'll throw them at Brandon here. Let's start with, Brandon, in your opinion, what are the biggest security threats right now?
Someone was paying attention, so I'm glad that question came in. Without a doubt, it's wire transfer fraud and ransomware. And these threats would have actually originated from somebody who was phished with a phishing email. A good example of this is all of the organizations I've worked with, there is always phishing emails that are going out from the CEO asking someone who may or may not have access to bank information, asking for a quick wire transfer or click on a link and continue further. And this is where those threats originate.
If you have an antivirus software like McAfee, can it be extended to your mobile device? Is there more that needs to be done from the user's perspective of devices?
That's a really good question. There really is no market for mobile antivirus products. So for instance, the number one area where you typically get attacked or people click on phishing emails where products can be installed happens on your desktop or laptop device. It's less, probably zero. I don't want to confirm that fully, but that's a very good question.
Here's another one here. How can we train employees better on cybersecurity?
That's a good question. There's a few digital security providers we actually have within the DER3 program, and that have been approved as a digital security provider for us. They're able to set up more in-depth discussions and training. There's also software products that are online where you can enroll your employees in cybersecurity modules and make it mandatory, video watching, much like this webinar or homework.
And one more here that we have is, so we're in this world of the pandemic, and it's a lot of work from home situations. What are the things that can be done to make that more secure for people who are working remotely?
Yeah, so some of the best practices here working remotely are to enforce setting up multi-factor authentication. You typically have two options there. You get a 6-digit code sent to your SMS, or there's a Google Authenticator app that will generate a 6-digit code that helps provide access to your accounts. Also bring in some outsourced IT help to set up a VPN, virtual private network, for your office and your employees to connect to while they work remotely. This is beneficial not only from home, but when they go to a conference, if that ever happens again after this pandemic is over, to connect to that VPN. It gives them that secure line of communication from wherever they are to your office network. And of course, with all the meetings we're having and the video meetings, make sure they're password protected. There are people that go around and join unprotected video conferences and video meetings all the time.
So the VPN is something that is applicable now with work from home, but would also be valuable long-term.
Yeah, it's definitely something that would be recommended. For instance, with all the tech companies in town, cyber insurance would likely recommend that each one of them at a specific level have to have a VPN set up. So it becomes fairly a de facto standard.
What if, so I suspect a phishing email and then delete it. Is there anything more that people need to do? Do they need to run an antivirus or scrub their device somehow?
No, the best thing to do with the phishing email is to delete it. There are individuals that like to identify the phishing email and then forward it on to someone else to be like, hey, look, this is a phishing email. But what all you're doing there is facilitating the opportunity for someone to click on the content or download the content in that email. So your best course of action is to delete it, but raise awareness. If you have IT or someone that deals with this, they likely can institute a program, whether it's a browser extension where you can report the phishing email as well, and they can keep track of it.
Awesome. Well, that looks like all the questions that we have for the day.
Okay. Well, thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Adam. And thank you for tuning in to this webinar in our online retailing series. A reminder that you'll be able to watch it again as a recording in the next week or so on our Viatech website. And don't forget, if you haven't applied to be a participant in the DER3 program, we're here and welcome a chat with you about your specific business. Thank you very much and have a great day.